What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG down there, and the day is upon us. It finally happened. We got an Eldritch Moon spoiler this afternoon on an episode of Access Magic. I'll give you a link to that video in the description. But coolest thing about today is that we finally got a freaking card for Eldritch Moon, and it's the one that everybody wanted and a lot of you amateur sleuths called EMRAKUL, the Promised End. Well, Emmy is a legendary Eldrazi. She's a 13/13 flying trample protection from instants. That's a cool line of text. And she costs one less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. Coolest line of text on the card, though, is when you cast EMRAKUL, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. So you basically get to Mindslaver them for a turn, but in exchange for that, they get an extra turn. Really not that big of a deal considering Mindslaver is ridiculous if you've never played against the card. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff to mess you up while they take control of your turn. They can cast your removal on your own creatures. They can use your activated abilities and onboard effects and things to mess you up. They can just tap all your mana just because. They can swing into EMRAKUL, something that, you probably wouldn't do. So, and just all kinds of other stuff depending on what's going on in the game at that point. Being Mindslavered is not fun ever, and they can set up situations where the next time they get to swing, which will be a couple of turns from then because you get to take the extra turn, but they can set up situations where they can easily get through with their Emmy. Surprisingly, as far as I'm concerned, the reaction from the community has been a resounding meh to this card. Comments on the video and MTG Salvation forum postings, a lot of people are just like, this, whatever, this card's kind of bad. And some people even going as far as being like, Wizards completely screwed this up. I don't know about that. I actually think there's some pretty cool things about the card, and I'd like to go ahead and talk about a few of those things. First of all, a lot of people really wanted it to work with Nahiri, and a lot of people are lamenting the fact that it's a cast trigger and not an enter the battlefield trigger. So when you ultimate it into play with a Nahiri, you won't get the cast trigger. Sucks, right? But you know what you do get? A 13/13 flying trample haste. It ends the game. Kind of a lot, I would imagine. So, just 13 flying trample is a lot to have to deal with. They're going to take some amount of damage, and it's probably going to be fairly big. Even if they have no Jutai out, they're still taking a ridiculous amount of damage. So, I like it with Nahiri still, even though you don't get the cast trigger. It would be fairly broken if you did. You could tell Wizards did everything they could to not make this card super broken. That said, there's 7 playable card types in Standard right now, and 8 in Modern and Eternal formats if you count Tribal, and the rules do count Tribal. So in Standard, this could cost you as little as 6 mana, and in Eternal formats, where it would be really easy to get to this, it could cost you as little as 5 mana. That's really good. I mean, keep in mind that we're trying to get to 10 to play Ulamogs right now, and we're getting to 10. So I really don't think it would be too tough to engineer a sort of Delirium deck that gets all of the card types in its graveyard, or at least a lot of them, and cast this late game to finish things out. Also, I know that cast triggers, again on that, aren't usually great as far as reanimation targets are concerned. People, again, they want to enter the battlefield trigger. Well, honestly, right now we have Ever After in the format, and even though you won't get the cast trigger when you put it into play with Ever After, you can go get this and a Kolagon out of your graveyard with an Ever After and swing 19 haste flying damage, and 13 of that damage again has trample. So you're going to get a ton of damage through with an Ever After getting this and a Dragonlord Kolagon. Just wanted to point that out. That said, there are a few things in the format that could take care of this card and keep it in check at least for a while now. And sure, it has protection from instants, but there's things like Clip Wings, which is an instant, yes, but it doesn't target anything. And Clip Wings was in Shadows of Innistrad, and that's going to be in Standard the whole time this card's in Standard. So Clip Wings is a good way to take it out. There's also Stasis Snare, which you can cast at instant speed, but it's not itself an instant. Stasis Snare is a really good tool against this as well. There's also Sinister Concoction, which could totally work if you already have one out, because, Emmy doesn't have Indestructible or anything, doesn't have Hexproof, so you can target it with a Sinister Concoction as long as the card's already out on the battlefield. There's also Hidden Dragon Slayer. If you've got it morphed down, you can flip it up, take care of Emmy right then and there. So that's not a small selection of things, and a couple of those cards already see a ton of play. So we have ways of dealing with EMRAKUL in the format, yes, but still an undeniably extremely powerful creature. So at the end of the day, the question is, does it really see Standard play? Now, all the tricks I've described, I'm not really sure, are at the highest levels of constructed Magic, as far as Nahiri, as far as, Ever After. I'm not totally sure, although this probably is the best thing in the format to Nahiri into play, if, for my money at least. Because, 13, you don't get the cast trigger. Oh no, it's not indestructible, whatever. 13 flying trample is going to win the game. Like 90-ish% of the time, one swing with this is going to win you the game. You don't need to mind slaver them, none of that. So I think the card is definitely powerful, and probably powerful enough to see standard play while we're casting things like Ulamog, Kozilek, We're definitely casting things that are just as big and will in many cases cost more than this. I mean, you can pretty much count on, by the time you get to this amount of mana, having 2 to 4 card types in the graveyard anyway, So this is going to cost you anywhere between 9 and 10 a lot of the time, same as Ulamog. So it's definitely realistic. And again, you could engineer a deck around this that plays it for 6 mana. It's possible. So long story short, my overall evaluation is that I like the card. I think it's very flavorful. I like that about it. I like that we finally get the third Eldrazi Titan. Remember, they came as 3. And I just think that it's a good balance. Wizards obviously didn't want to break the card. Doesn't look like the card is broken to me or really anybody else. And it is a powerful card. Like, I don't really know how you can look at this and want that much more from it, And if you want a more powerful version of EMRAKUL, one already exists. But as far as standard Magic goes, I think that this will be a tool that gets some play. We've got Cryptolith right in the format. That produces a ton of mana. We've already got a bunch of ramp decks in the format. We've got Eldrazi Scion tokens. There are ways to exploit this thing and get it out fairly quickly. That's all we've got for now. I know there's going to be another episode of Access Magic Eldritch Moon on the 27th. That's a week from today, Monday, June 27th. But for all we know, this weekend we'll see a couple of spoilers. Just keep your eyes on Salvation, Mythic Spoiler, and this channel, as well as other YouTube channels. I'm not going to sell them up the river. And we'll be giving you Eldritch Moon spoilers here for the next 3 weeks, because they're going to start coming relatively fast now that we've gotten this one. But if I know Wizards, they'll give us a few days to discuss this card and see what we can do with it. So be patient. I'm sure there'll be more spoilers very soon. But for now, go to the comments section. Let me know how you feel about this. I know a lot of people are like, whatever. But I know a lot of people are probably excited too. I want to know how you feel about it. And if you enjoyed this content, like it and then subscribe for more. Because, you've probably been watching the channel for a while. You haven't subscribed. I think it's probably time. Anyway, Wizards, like I said, that's all I've got for now. We're going to have deck techs here soon. And there's going to be another top 10 list coming out actually same day. Plus, again, Eldritch Moon spoilers. So I'll see you guys for all that later. Thanks for watching, my Wizards.